TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Pearson and Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Green Eggs and Ham, Sam I Am, Season 1. Brought to you by the good people at Gulfstream Pictures, a stern talking to. A very good production, Warner Brothers Animation, and Netflix. Executive produced by Jared Stern, Ellen DeGeneres, Jeff Kleeman, Mike Carrs, David Dobkin, and Sam Register. I literally read that list just so I could point out that Ellen DeGeneres worked on this. Joining me tonight is the person I go to not just for girl stuff, but for animation stuff too. Ladies and gentlemen, from Honeysuckle Rose Creation, it's Alexis Hejna. How do you do, madam?
Will you listen to us in the house? Will you listen to us with a mouse? If you will, you should call the exterminator.
Sam, don't you understand? That's how you should. If you haven't had a chance to listen to the dramatic reading of Green Eggs and Ham, I actually did that one more focused on what the book actually says. When I read it to my kids, I did a lot of improv.
Go listen to it and then go get the lawyer to sue us to get the 20 minutes of your life back.
I'd be reading it and just sort of throwing myself around and be like, Sam, don't you understand? I don't like the green eggs and the ham.
Michael Douglas, you are not.
and my kids are looking at me like it's running a fucking story. I've never wanted to go to bed so much in my life. But we are, in fact, here to discuss the television show starring Adam Devine, Michael Douglas, Keegan-Michael Kay, Eddie Izzard, and Diane Keaton. Let me first ask you, this is something that you and I wanted to do when we saw it debut on Netflix back on November 8th, 2019. And obviously, for a variety of reasons, we're both fans of the Dr. Seuss book series, series for children. So how did you come to Dr. Seuss?
I'm sure that I read the Dr. Seuss stories when I was a kid, but the strongest memory I've ever had of it was there was an animated special called Dr. Seuss on the Loose.
Yes.
They came out in, I want to say, the 80s. And I had the videotape growing up. It had the Sneetches, the Zacks, and Green Eggs and Ham on it. I think the copy I had also had the Cat in the Hat on it. And I watched that so many times. I am not joking. I know the Zacks verbatim. I have scared people with how well I can remember every line of dialogue from that poem. So Dr. Seuss has always been a part of my life. I've watched that like crazy. I watched How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Chuck Jones animated special, ad nauseum. I watched it when it was Christmas. I watched it when it wasn't Christmas. I remember my mother recorded it off of TNT. My God, that's how old I am. I still can remember, if I think hard enough, the commercials for the films and TV shows that they were airing during the commercials. I remember one for a film starring James and Josh Brolin about a kid who ran track and got into steroids.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what I mean? When you watch something like crazy as a kid and it's ingrained in your brain and you will never forget it no matter how hard you try.
Yes.
Yeah. So Dr. Seuss has always been a big part of my life. We were talking about this earlier. I have made it a life's goal to have the complete library of Dr. Seuss. In fact, probably my most precious book on my bookshelf, not excluding autographed copies of graphic novels from my friends, Love You, Dirk Manning. But my favorite and most prized book is Dr. Seuss Goes to War. It's a collection of Seuss's World War II propaganda cartoons.
Oh,
which
wow.
a lot of people don't realize he did. Seuss was a major contributor to World War II's artistry and propaganda. In fact, if you ever watch the old Private Snafu shorts that Warner Brothers did for the Army trainees, there's a couple that Seuss helped them write.
Was he doing like the bond raising effort like Warner Brothers did with the Bugs Bunny cartoons?
A little bit. Originally, his cartoons were more, and when I say cartoons, I mean just like illustrations for newspapers and such. Originally, they were more of an insult of America which had not yet entered the war. There was a strong case from a lot of people saying, you know, we have to help out our allies, and at the time, America as a country was not entering it. There's actually a handful that I'm a little depressed to admit I've been able to share on my Facebook page because the message is kind of repeating itself, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Sorry, we're not going to get off on a tangent about politics or the current state of the American government, but I think you all know exactly what I'm talking about.
So, growing up as a kid, and I'm happy to have passed this on to my kids. You know, the two books I remember my dad reading to me. I remember Green Eggs and Ham. It's probably one of Dr. Seuss, other than the Cat in the Hat. It's probably one of Dr. Seuss's most favorite books, most famous books. Mm-hmm. But I remember my dad especially. He didn't read so much Green Eggs and Ham to me. I came to that a little bit later. Nor did he read Cat in the Hat. The two books that I got read the most as a little kid before my dad stopped reading to me and made me read to him every night.
Haha.
Was Horton Hears a Who. And the other one was, and this one I've read to my kids as well. I went out of my way to buy it in the bookstore for this reason. I can read with my eyes shut. I have vivid memories of that.
That's a good one.
But the Horton Hears a Who kind of strikes a heartfelt tone for me because I remember my dad like identifying with Horton. He was like, I am an elephant faithful 100%. Like, my dad's known for, and this is kind of where I get a lot of my personality from, just like odd, out of context quotes. Like, I've told the story about how he just dramatically pranced out of a bathroom in our house and announced at the top of the stairs that he was the god of hellfire and you're gonna burn, baby, burn. Scared the fuck out of my neighbor friend as he went scurrying from the house. Apropos of nothing that had been happening before that, by the way. So, for those of you who might be hearing this who I work with, now you know why I'm the way I am. But, yeah, we read, growing up as a kid, Horton Hears a Who, Horton Hatches the Egg, which I might be conflating the two, but, excuse me, both Horton books, and then I can read with my eyes shut. And then, as my kids have grown up, there's been a lot of One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish, Green Eggs and Ham, Cat in the Hat. I can't remember the name of the book now, but the one that we've been Hop on Pop is just very, very popular with my son. Not because he likes the book, but because he likes to jump on me. And
I was going to say, haven't we had that interrupt a couple of shows where your son is running and just pounced on you, a la Tigger?
Yeah. And it's a common enough phrase heard around my house. You must not hop on Pop. And my son, says with zest, I must hop on Pop. This is the house that we live in here. So, obviously, Dr. Seuss, for a variety of reasons, holds a special place for both you and I. So when we saw this series, I was interested in it. Now, and here's where I want your expertise here. Historically, Warner Brothers Animation, even like the kid stuff, and I'm going to cite specifically Animaniacs, Hysteria, Tiny Toons, that era of Warner Brothers, Pinky and the Brain, that era of Warner Brothers Animation, rode this line, and I want you to talk as much as you can about this, rode this line between this is content for children that adults can enjoy, and there's humor working on two distinctly different levels, because this show comes right out of that motif.
You're absolutely right. This is some of the best writing I have ever heard for what is essentially a children's animated show since the Steven Spielberg animation era. The storyline is great. I mean, you sit back and you go, how the hell can you take Green Eggs and Ham, a book that was essentially written on a dare to see if you could write a full book with less than 50 words? That's the truth. That is how this book came about. Theodore Geisel was given a challenge to use less than 50 words to write a book, and he did it.
Bravo.
Part of the other reason I was so intrigued by this is that Dr. Seuss does not have a good history, at least a good recent history, of adaptations. I mean, we all love the Chuck Jones Grinch, the Friz Freleng Lorax, the original Horton Hears a Who, just some of the other shorts that Friz Freleng Freleng to Patty, that was the name of the animation studio, did. Like Pontypool, Where Are You? And the Hoover Blue Highway. But after Seuss passed away, you see a lot of these animation, or just a lot of adaptations in general, that don't seem to have the touch anymore. You watch and go, well, you've got what you get the idea. It's like, well, you have rhyming words, and you have nonsense words, and you have a lot of curls and curvy shapes and a lot of bright colors. And yes, that does seem to be like what Dr. Seuss is, but it doesn't feel like Dr. Seuss. It always felt like a cheap imitation of his work. It's so cliche to really think about it and say it, but they didn't have the soul that one of the greatest writers of all time was able to inject into his storylines. Everyone thinks, what he did was so easy because he was with the rhyming and the coming up with the nonsense words and all. I don't think people realize just what a real talent that is and how you can interject it and make it so well done.
Yeah, especially the live action Dr. Seuss stuff has been a bit lacking. Certainly the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat.
The less said about that, the better. I still feel sorry for Jesse.
Yeah. The Jim
Jesse
Carrey.
Starch had to watch that with his son the other day, and we all said, why the hell did you subject your child to that?
Yeah, it's not good. I think then there's you have the Jim Carrey.
The Jim Carrey,
Grinch,
which has a special place in my heart, but that is solely because, like I mentioned on our review of Sonic the Hedgehog Plug, I am a huge Jim Carrey fan. I have been a giant fan of his from the beginning. So I'm able to look at that film and go, okay, I'm not looking at this as a Dr. Seuss adaptation. It's a Jim Carrey vehicle. And if you do that, you can enjoy it.
The most recent animated adaptation, the feature-length adaptation, Robert and I reviewed it. We actually gave it a very good review. And it was like one of our most popular reviews that year in terms of downloads. We don't know why to this day. Sorry, I'm just getting home and struggling here. In any case, I think the Lorax, I remember it being okay, but I know people didn't love it. I don't know if it raised anyone's ire or anything, but
my problem with the feature-length Lorax was that so much of it felt like it was written by a focus group. I actually was doing written reviews for an animation blog at the time, and I went home and said, why the hell does somebody think we need a movie that was written by 99%ers? Sorry, that's all I got out of that movie. And I'm not trying to say, it's like, oh, the 1% have a right. I am not getting on a soapbox about that over this. But that is all I could think of. It's like, you took what is essentially, yes, there is an environmental message, and turned it against big business.
Right.
And honestly, I'm not a fan of the feature-length animated Grinch with Benedict Cumberbatch because, again, it felt like it was written by focus groups. It just felt like they were missing what captivated, or what made Dr. Seuss so special in the beginning.
So let's talk about the series now. Now, the premise of this series, I'm just going to read this straight from the wiki. Sam, played by Adam Devine, rescues the rare chickaraf from a zoo, saying he intends to return it to its natural habitat. After he accidentally swaps his briefcase containing the chickaraf for that of failed inventor Guy, played by Michael Douglas, Sam and Guy end up on an adventure with Evie, a girl who wants to adopt the chickaraf as a pet, and Evie's overprotective mother. Is it pronounced Michelle or Michelle? I can't remember.
It's like Michelle.
Michelle, okay.
Michelle, yeah.
Who's also a romantic interest for Guy. The four are pursued by a wealthy, arrogant poacher and collector, Snurs, who is played by the great Eddie Izzard, who wants to claim the chickaraf, called Mr. Jenkins by Sam, as a trophy. The two mysterious bad guys, and that's actually an abbreviation, as we'll come to find out, named Mickwinkle and Gluntz, and Snurs' bounty hunter, Goat. So, it's a road picture. Set up over 13 episodes. These are roughly in the range of about 20 to 25 minutes, I think. Each episode is named after a word in the book. Here, car, train, fox, dark, box, mouse, rain, goat, house, boat, there, anywhere, which is basically how the book goes. And over the course of the 13 episodes, where ultimately they're trying, you meet your characters, the world is set up, your basic premise is laid out there, and then it's what mischief have our heroes gotten into in this episode as it minimally relates to the book. And yes, it's called Green Eggs and Ham. And one of the great things about this is how they're able to knit the book is basically every page is, and Jesse and I talked about this on the read-along, Sam is trying to get Guy to just eat the damn meal. And he's like, no. And then it's just like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? No. And finally he just wears him down. And he eats it and he's like, oh, well, I shouldn't have been fighting you all this time because it's pretty damn good. That's the story.
The government lobbyist.
Yes. They're able to knit that into this other narrative where they're trying to get this bird to safety. So we'll break this into parts here. The first couple episodes where they're just kind of establishing the world and the characters. They're setting up Sam, who is very free and very energetic, and he's living by the seat of his pants, and he seems like a really fun and exciting guy. Then there's Guy, who is a failed inventor, who's like, you know what? I can't get anything to work. Everything I make blows up. I'm gonna get a job watching paint dry. And just so people understand, there is a lot of literal humor in this show. Again,
I absolutely love that. When Guy's getting in to present his invention, the receptionist says, "Don't worry, they're just a bunch of bean counters and pencil pushers." And they open the door, and they are literally counting beans and pushing pencils.
Yes, Michelle is a bean counter, and she literally carries like a wrestler carrying around a gimmick. She's got a jar of beans that she just counts. It's great. And there's, again, think Animaniacs, think Pinky and the Brain in terms of very literal play on words, adult humor that, a kid kind of laughs at the pratfalls. The adult laughs at, and I'm just going to throw this out there. There's a bit where the car goes into a lake and it lands on the house of one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish.
That was brilliant.
They do that gag later, and I died laughing.
Yeah, again, this is just some brilliant writing. We have a scene where, again, the suitcases are mixed up. A guy opens a suitcase in a hotel room, and the chickaraf jumps out, and it destroys, and you suddenly realize there's all these vases in the hotel room, which you wouldn't have noticed before, and the chickaraf destroys every one of them. And Guy starts talking to I guess it's like a manager or just an employee at the hotel, and he goes, "We hope you are enjoying your suite with 17 rare and expensive vases." And Guy goes, "Well, are any of them insured?" And the other one goes, "Of course not. They're rare and expensive. It's just like, oh my God, that is so brilliant.
We meet Snurs early on here. Again, our 5 main characters that they establish right off the bat: Guy, Sam, Michelle, Evie, and then our villain, Snurs. Again,
And it's kind of obvious that there is a little... This series manages to stay incredibly topical, but it's kind of obvious who Snurs' character is poking fun at.
Yes, it is.
There is... There's actually a scene where he talks to a character and says, "I have the best words."
And look,
I'd like to thank the subtitles for catching that, because I originally didn't.
And if you're wondering, like, oh, this is going to be one of those just conservative versions. No, it's nothing like that. It's there's jokes. It's topical. I don't know if that stuff like that ages well, but for right now, it's fine and it's funny. And Eddie Izzard has tons of charisma that shines through this character, and they do really funny things with him, like his hair, which is obviously meant to mimic Donald Trump, is actually a bird of some sort, which is just really funny. They do a lot of gags with that.
Yeah, the character is poking a little bit of fun at Trump, obviously, but they managed to not go so far as to say, oh, it's just obviously Trump. You could watch this character having no idea who Donald Trump is, and God bless you in your blissful unawareness, and still laugh at the character. Even if you didn't get the references of what they're doing, it's still a funny villain.
So going back to these first 3 episodes here, so we have here that sets up the world. We have Car, which is them. Sam and Guy kind of finding each other, and they're on the road, and there's a lot of, in the beginning, there's a lot of Guy trying to get away from Sam, and Sam trying to finding a reason for them to be together and on this trip, and then you have Train, which is a really brilliant episode, because you have Guy who is struggling. They almost paint him as like this midlife crisis kind of character. He tried to be an inventor. It didn't work out. So he's going to watch paint dry. Again, literally watch paint dry. He's got a kit and a mic and a magnifying glass and everything. It's great. And they use Train to kind of slow the action down so that Sam and Evie bond. And Evie talks about, she wants to be free, and, her mom is, like, there's a lot of gags with her and her mom, and, like, the mom is driving this car in almost neutral.
The constant amount of bubble wrap. This woman is helicopter parent to the absolute extreme, but it's in an adorable way. This show knows how to do cringe humor without making it painful.
Yeah, that actually, and it sounds like almost Michelle would almost be like a villainous type, but she's doing this stuff out of instinct, and when she realizes that EB is being smothered, she tries to adjust. She develops a relationship with Guy in this episode, which over the course of the 13 episodes sort of rises and falls depending on what else is going on. And you really feel for Michelle as the series unwinds, because she keeps trusting him, and through no fault of his own, just sort of happenstance, and then her sort of knee-jerk skittishness, they keep, hitting these rocky patches. But, she genuinely likes Guy, and Guy genuinely likes her, and they are trying to find a way to each other, which I thought was really sweet.
Yeah, I still think my favorite scene in Train is when they're getting on and Guy goes, "Please tell me you didn't buy our seat or buy seats for us next to one another." And Sam goes, "Of course not." And you cut, and they're sitting across from each other. And he goes, "Sitting across from each other is better, so we can look at each other while we talk." I'm sorry. That is, again, bringing it back to the Spielberg era. That is the most Pinky-esque thing I think I've ever heard. That is something Pinky would say to Braid.
Yeah, I was starting to say this before. They do, throughout the series, even though there's this narrative that they're pushing through, they take time out for Sam to actually get Guy to try to eat green eggs and ham. There is green eggs and ham is everywhere throughout this series.
Yeah, they actually do a really good job of putting it in. They have seen every time they go to a diner, he gets green eggs and ham. They get stuck in a junkyard, and there's a vending machine that says Cup O green eggs and ham, like a Cup O ramen vending machine. They go with Michelle and EB to the cabin, and Michelle says, well, I'm vegan, but we can make a vegan version of green eggs and ham. I pray for whoever had to eat that. But they do manage to work it in pretty well. You ever had green eggs and ham?
I mean, it's just food dye.
Actually, I think it was when the Lorax came out. I remember IHOP had a green eggs and ham dish, and it was scrambled eggs with spinach.
Yeah, I probably ate that. I can't believe how... Well, I remember when the Grinch cartoon came out recently, the one that we were talking about before with Benedict Cumberbatch, and they had a bunch of Dr. Seuss-inspired dishes. My family ate there pretty frequently. My daughter loved whatever the hot chocolate was. We were, my kids were big fans like the Grinch pancakes. This was an ongoing thing.
Yeah, I remember when the Lorax came out, they had like a truffula-tree pancake special, which they had a big thing of cotton candy on a stick in the middle of the pancakes. Not a cotton candy fan?
No. I'm not really a sugar person, believe it or not. I'm much more of a, meat, protein kind of a guy. I like, my wife's got a big sweet tooth. My daughter, despite my urgings not to, is developing that way. And, yeah, I find a lot of that stuff just to be gross.
See, I inherited my late grandmother's sweet tooth. One of my favorite things I ever did was when I went to Cape Comic-Con. There was a baker there who made handmade truffles, and I always bring back a couple, and Grandma Jo would find some way to sneak a couple of them before I left. She loved them. So, no, I've always joked it's like, yep, there's a reason I've got a major sweet tooth.
So, the next one I want to talk about in isolation, Fox. This is where we meet Tracy Morgan's Fox character, who I thought was hilarious in this episode.
Yeah,
so
I'm really not a Tracy Morgan fan, but he pulled this off.
Tracy Morgan can be an acquired taste, and here's the thing. If you see him in, 30 Rock, where he's, a half an idiot, yeah, I can get why he can be grating. And there's other things that he's been in where I can see people be like, yeah, Tracy Morgan's a little too out there for me. But then I've seen him in, the last OG, where he's playing somewhat of a dramatic role. I mean, it's a comedy show, but there are dramatic moments in it, and he's actually a really good actor.
You ever heard John DiMaggio's impression of him?
No.
The guy who does Bender on Futurama?
Okay.
Oh my god, he does a really good Tracy Morgan impression.
I enjoyed his... So we have literally a fox guarding the hen house situation here. It's really funny. The setup is that they've got to feed the chickaraff, who only eats ties. I have no idea what that's about, by the way. I don't know what gag they were going for here, but they decided the chickaraff has to eat ties, so they're looking for ties, and they go to this farm, because they think there might be ties there. And this is where they run afoul of Tracy Morgan's Fox character, who's in love with a chicken named Sandra, but he also likes to eat green eggs. And so he's working his way through his issues through meditation. And it's a hilarious take on the very serious subject of addiction. And Tracy Morgan does a really good job of creating this Fox character that I got a good couple of laughs out of this.
Yeah, it is really funny how quickly he flip-flops back and forth from I am calm, nothing bothers me, and I will rip your throat out. And you know what, credit where credit's due. Tracy Morgan is one of those actors who is very, very good at switching back and forth on an emotional range. That can be very difficult, and he does a good job with it.
Yeah, he has a very, not Robin Williams-esque, but still a kind of manic sense of humor about him.
Now, let's face it, no one is Robin Williams' level of that.
No.
No, I'm sorry. No one will ever top that.
So what do you think of our bad guy characters? McWinkle and Gluntz, played by... where are they?
Jeffrey Wright and Jillian Bell.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I have yet to see Jeffrey Wright do anything bad in a performance. I'm serious, I'm not like saying, oh my god, I love Jeffrey Wright, but I started thinking back to anything I've seen him in, the second Hunger Games movie, his appearances in the Bond franchise, and I just kept thinking, I'm like, I don't think he's ever turned in a bad performance.
He's a very good actor.
He's a brilliant actor, and I love the gag. He's this blue-furred creature. We're going to use the word creature a lot because Dr. Seuss had a tendency just to make something and you had no idea what exactly it was.
Yeah, it's kind of like Goofy. Is it a dog? Is it a walrus? Nobody really knows.
So, yeah, he's just this blue-furred Dr. Seuss. There's got to be a name for a Dr. Seuss furry creature. Like Sam is a white and yellow creature. Guy is a brown creature. There has to be a name for what this species is, but I'm probably getting too technical. But either way, McWinkle is all blue, and he's trying to retire. This is his last job, and he's determined to go out with a perfect record. But every time something goes wrong, a chunk of his fur turns gray. He's getting stressed out.
I personally identify with this character.
And I love it because every time we see him, he's just got a little more gray in his fur, and it just keeps growing and growing.
It's that you can't explode. You're having to hold back an enormous amount of rage, so it's causing you to age rapidly.
Yeah.
There's a girl I work with who, she's a young gal, I think younger than you and Robert, who she might be in her 20s. And she's already starting to go gray, and and I told her, you need to start snorting Xanax, because you come in just a raging ball of nerves. You're already graying and stressed out. Fucking relax, dude. It's just a job.
See, I actually kind of like early gray. My husband Andre actually has salt and pepper hair, and he had that when we first met. And it's not like all salt and pepper, but he's got little grays on his temples and everything. Frankly, I think it looks great. So,
so you have Jillian Bell, who's playing this really upbeat, very positive character, and the show is great about sort of subverting expectations. So you have these people, they're the bad guys, and they're framed as the bad guys. They're framed as having to get the Chickaraf for Snurts, even though that ends up not being true. They're on an entirely different mission.
Yeah, they just say for the boss.
Right. And so, but until that reveal happens, you're assuming they're the two bounty hunters on the road to capturing the Chickaraf and getting Guy and Sam. And, along the way, you have the veteran and then you have the rookie. And they have a great give and take, those two.
Yes, they do. Jillian Bell brings just such a great youthful energy that, again, I think with a lot of other voice actors would get so annoying so fast. Yeah, I'm kind of reminded of the Looney Tunes characters. Oh my God, what were their names? The big bulldog and the little yellow dog.
Oh yeah, so Spike and
Chester.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, gee, Spike, what are we going to do today? Spike, honey, what are we going to do? Ha. And it's like stacked with it. And you realize that so many people could not pull off that level of exuberant annoyance without making you want to pull every last hair out of your head. But I think Jillian Bell does it really well. No rhyme intended. I'm not trying to turn this into a full Dr. Seuss review where we do everything in rhyme.
So that takes us to the next couple of episodes here. We have Dark. We have the episode called Dark, and I believe this is the one where they end up in the trash pile. And I believe this is the one where... I gotta read for a second. Michael breaks down and reveals his hopeless love of... Okay, we get the finishing up of the Michael story, Michael the Fox. Yeah, they get trapped on toxic sludge. And this is the one where Sam is trying to inspire Guy to build another invention. And, and Guy is having to get over his own self-doubt because nothing he ever makes works. But they're never going to get out of this ravine in the sludge pile unless he does something. And this is the great relationship between Sam and Guy, to where Guy has such self-doubt and self-loathing over how his life has developed thus far. And then you have Sam, who seemingly comes across like a great dude, and he's so positive and so full of inspiration, and he's just the kind of person to get Guy out of the doldrums. And this is a great episode where that, where this budding friendship really takes flight, and you get to see, Guy blossom in a way. And, it's a really fun episode.
I also love how well they do the timing on the inventions exploding, because Guy has made it clear every invention he's ever made is blown up in his face. And there is a real metaphor for life in there somewhere. And I love it because they get out of he invents it's kind of like a jumping rocking horse, so to speak. And they get out and they stop off at a little restaurant to get some food. And the minute they get inside, it blows up.
The next episode, Box. This is the one where they're at the fair, and Sam and Guy have to take jobs at the carnival to make money to get back on the road. The great thing about this episode is this is the one where Michelle is really trying to, much like Guy, step outside of herself, outside of her comfort zone, and be there for E.B. and be fun. And while there's, her instinct is to be safe and keep E.B. away from the dangers of this carnival, she also doesn't want E.B. to hate her. This isn't an Adam Sandler, they're all going to laugh at you thing. This is this woman struggling against herself to be the best mom she can be for this daughter, who she loves, and the daughter loves her too. But, they're trying to find a way to each other, a way to the middle. And so that's the great thing about this episode.
Yeah, I love it because Michelle, you don't hate her for how overprotective she is. You see her really trying. Again, I have seen cringe comedy where they have done this, where the parent is just crazy overprotective and just insane about it. And it gets really old really fast, but they met. This doesn't. I can't explain it. It doesn't. It does not get annoying.
Our next episode, Mouse. Sam gets arrested by McWinkle and Gluntz, and this is where he meets a mouse that is an analog to Jean Valjean. Because why not have a little Les Miserables in your children's cartoon?
Thank you, David Diggs, for giving us one hell of a song, which we end by finding out that in the world of the series, all the other characters here are squeaks. So he does this massive, show-stopping, brilliant number, and then you realize that Sam has not heard a single word of it. All he's heard is...
So good. So yes, Squeaky the Mouse. Anything else about that episode? If not, I'm just going to plow forward here.
Actually, that episode brings me to what I really think is one of the most underappreciated parts of this whole series. Keegan-Michael Key as the narrator.
Yes.
Because, oh my God, he is perfect as the narrator. It is hilarious how he manages to say with so much exuberance and enthusiasm. I love the opening scene where he's doing the rhymes. Like, starts with a kite and shut the front door. There's a ninja. I thought this was Dr. Seuss.
Gosh, I can't remember the actor's name. Who does the narration in the? I want to say the House of Mouse. British actor Michael. Shit. He's in A Fish Called Wanda.
Hang on.
Keep going. I'll look it up.
That's all right, but no, the mouse episode gives me two of my favorite moments. The first is with the narrator when I'm trying to remember exactly what the line is, like, escaped with the help of vermin, and Squeaky looks at him and is like, what, rodent? Okay, mouse. We'll say mouse, even though it's totally ruining the rhyme aesthetic.
Yes, the best narration I've heard since John Cleese.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, we get one of the best lines in the whole series. While escaping from jail, they accidentally crash a graduation ceremony, and Sam gets up to the podium and says, "Oh, the places you'll go, but hopefully not jail." And keeps running.
Yeah, if you're a big Dr. Seuss fan, one of the great things about this is, the references to other Dr. Seuss books. Just fantastic.
Yes.
So that's Mouse.
Did you get "Oh, the places you'll go" read at your graduation?
No. At my graduation, Craig Feithandler talked about how most graduation classes really coalesce and become, a class of friends. Ours really didn't. So,
yeah, see, we
very
didn't
inspiring.
Get it. We didn't get it either because we had 20 valedictorians because apparently they decided that if you got A's in cheerleading and choir, you could still be a valedictorian. So we had a lot of student speeches to get through.
Were they not giving out participation trophies that day?
No, they weren't. No, seriously, we had 20 valedictorians, and it was so freaking funny to see a couple of them up there. And we all knew it's like, okay, those ones deserve it, those don't.
So, moving on. We got Rain next. This is the one where she's Michelle and Evie are like in a cottage that they've rented, and they get back together again, and they're coming together, they're bonding. Michelle is trying to let Guy in. Guy's trying to be there for Michelle. Things don't. This is where you get the vegan tofu, the tofu, green eggs, and ham bit.
I do love when Sam's trying to distract Michelle, so he asks her to talk about his job, and the minute she starts talking, it's like a sleep spell's been put on Sam, and we keep cutting to him trying so ridiculously hard to stay awake.
Yeah, just drawing eyeballs on his eyelids. That's fucking fantastic.
And he's pretty much throwing coffee in his face.
This is the one where to try to get close to Michelle, Guy's actually trying to bond with Evie, and in the doing so, they launch the jar of beans into the woods. So they've got to go after it, and so there's a whole thing with that. Which there's a great gag at the end of that episode where she walks in and the room looks perfectly normal because all the things they've destroyed are like taped to the roof.
Yes.
But this is also where we meet the goat.
I say, we also get the Jeroosters, which look exactly like the Chickaraffs, and they're judgivores. So the only way that you could stop them is by basically breaking their judgment.
Yeah, again, a lot of playing on words here. This is where we meet the goat. The goat is doing the job of hunting the Chickaraff for snurts, and I was
saying, who better to do the voice than John Turturro?
Yes. No hard-on and sweatpants in this one, not like in the Transformers movies.
Ugh. Are we gonna have to talk about those movies when we finally do My Little Pony meets the Transformers?
We might have to. I believe it was the Transformers where he did the. Maybe I might be thinking of something else. I just know that there's a bit where he does a hard-on in sweatpants. It's pretty funny.
Anyway. Turturro was that series punching bag. Outside of general racism.
So, Goat. The next episode, they have to break up, and this is the old. I'm going to be mean so that you'll leave me, so that I can actually protect you from the evil that is coming for us, and so that's what happens here. Which takes us to episode 9, which is the Goat. The gang get ready to leave for Meatville, and as Guy and Michelle go close, but again he pushes her off.
They managed to trick Goat with a tape recorder in a suitcase.
Yes.
and fill up the gas tank of goats. There's a goat riding a motorcycle, and he's not riding it like you would think an anthropomorphic goat would ride it. He's literally just standing on the motorcycle, because this is not an anthropomorphic goat. This is just a goat. And I love it that the tape recorder was built by Guy, and as they're running away, it's like, hey, this one didn't explode. Okay, there's still a few bugs to work out.
So this is where actually we get some backstory on Snertz. This is the one where the way he tells the story, the mother left the front door open and his fleemer ran away. And so he never talked to his mother again, which is very sad. But we'll find out that that's not how the story goes.
As Anne also explains why he likes collecting animals, but he pretty much just wants to collect them and keep them on his shelf like they're Funko Pops.
Yes. This takes us to House. I think this is the one this is the one where I texted you, and I was like, I just like started to tear up because Sam's story is so sad. This is you learn about Guy and his family, and he thinks that, and boy do I identify with this. Guy thinks that he's just a miserable failure, and his family will ridicule him, and he'll never live up to their expectations, and so he didn't even want to come home for that reason. Meanwhile, his family loves and adores him, and is and it doesn't understand why he's acting the way that he is. And I believe it's this episode where Sam explains why he's so attached to green eggs and ham. It's the last meal his mother made for him before I believe she took off, is what I remember.
She took him to an orphanage.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically says that he orders green eggs and ham every place he goes to in hopes of finding where, because that's the only clue he has to find his mother. He wants to find it so it will find the dish that tastes exactly like she cooked. And yeah, I have to admit, I think a lot of people identify with Guy's situation. Side note, I don't know if you caught this or not, but they go to the motel when everyone starts recognizing Guy, and you get the guy, I keep saying, and you get the guy, and that's going to start confusing people. You get the other one who works at the motel. It's like, hey, don't you remember me? That's the same actor who played Ned in Groundhog Day.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I've mentioned this before. I have a tendency to look up actors on IMDb and stuff and be like, oh, I wonder who that is. And I just thought that was the freaking funniest little Easter egg ever.
So it's a really heartfelt episode because you have Guy who, and if you're not like a big giant success and you're a middle class person living check to check, you can sort of reflect back on. I know I have reflect back on your life and go, I wish things had worked out differently. So you really do see Guy's perspective, and then you have Sam who's like, yeah, I grew up an orphan. And I'm, and I order green eggs and ham because I'm hoping I'll find the ones that my mom cooked and I'll find my mother. And you're like, that breaks your heart. But then this motherfucker Sam, has all along been the one trying to get the chick after Snertz. Oh, he broke my heart, Alexis.
Yeah, that was one hell of a twist.
I mean, better men than I may have seen that coming. But I mean, my son and I both, we binged this together last week, and both him and I jaw hit the floor, and just yelling no at the television. Sam, how could you?
Yeah, I wanted to go back though the whole thing about Guy and how he avoids his family. I actually identified a lot with that myself. There was a time in my life where I saw everyone else in my family, becoming more successful, getting married, having kids, and I was unemployed. I was bouncing job to job. I had moved back in with my parents, and I know what it's like to try to avoid your family, even though they love you, just because you don't feel like you measure up to what you once were or what they think you are, and it's horrible.
Yeah. I've lamented that a bunch of times. I don't feel, and my parents will be the first one to tell me, no, you have a career and you have a higher degree and you've got great kids and you have a great wife and I don't know what more you want. And I'm like, I don't know, to go a week before Friday and not go negative in my checking account. That'd be cool. So But apparently that's 2020, and we're all kind of we're all on the struggle bus, unless you're not.
Well, let's just hope that the struggle bus doesn't take us to the coronavirus.
Yeah, at this point, I just don't want to die. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At this point, it's just like, let's just, get through the presidential election with our sanity in check.
Oh, I'm not even worried about that. Like I said, listen, I've been fighting cancer for 3 years. I don't want to beat this thing and turns out I'm dead from the coronavirus. That would suck. Boy, that'd be ironic, wouldn't it? And if anyone's just like, God...
does this mean you don't want to go to Disney World with me in April?
No, well, are you kidding me? My wife's going on Monday. I'm sure I'll be going again. But it's so funny. If anyone's like, God, he can be a bit macabre. I have made that same exact joke to my wife, and she laughed uproariously. So, our last 3 episodes here, we have Boat, There, and Anywhere, and we have a guilt-ridden Sam tries to stall Guy, who has bought tickets for the ferry to Meatville. McWinkle and Gluntz arrive at the MI household, but Sam and Guy manage to escape. It is at this point that McWinkle and Gluntz reveal that Bad Guys is actually an acronym for Bureau of Animal Defense Glurfsburg Upper Yipville Section. And they're trying to save the Chickaraff from Snurts and that evil Sam I Am. Can you believe it, Alexis?
I just thought it was so funny when you look back at all the times they said, yep, we're bad guys, and we're proud. And they're like, what? No, we're not bad. So great.
So this is the episode called Boat, where they actually end up on the ferry, and then it turns into a submarine.
Hey, how gorgeous was that, actually, the scene when they're underwater in that glass room and you get to see all around them. That was some beautiful animation.
I was going to say, the animation in this series, for as silly and over the top as it can be at times, is actually very gorgeous.
Not surprising when you actually consider the budget. Apparently, this was the most expensive animated series of all. Each episode costing $5 to $6 million.
Wow. So Sam, who is feeling guilty about, after all of this, he's, really trying to sell out this Chickaraff and everyone around him, decides, you know what, nuts to this, nuts to all this money, I'm going to do the right thing and set the Chickaraff free. And of course, this is our 3rd episode, and as many, in the entire season, where Michelle, I keep doing that, Michelle and Guy are actually growing closer, which is good stuff. The goat appears, and he grabs the briefcase and makes off with Mr. Jenkins, which takes us to there. McWinkle and Gluntz catch up with Goat and manage to capture him. Sam and Guy arrive to get Mr. Jenkins back, but Guy gets caught. He learns that McWinkle and Gluntz's true purpose and is taken to be questioned. He is told about Sam and his many aliases and his intent to... Oh, God, this is the one where I think Sam is trying to break out Guy, and Guy's like, I can't even trust you. What are you talking about? That's a rough scene.
Yeah, although I'm trying to remember. I think I have to look up the quotes here. There is a really funny bit where he's talking about all of the different aliases. They have all these different ID cards that Sam has used. It's like Mr. Furry Foot Bandit. Who am I supposed to believe? Hector Jive, Bamboozle Make Hoaxy Pants, and Sam goes, "Hey, I only use Bamboozle Make Hoaxy Pants for hotels."
This is the one where E.B. learns that Michelle used to paint for a living, but gave it up once her husband died so that she can take care of her. So they get closer, which was there's a lot of heartfelt stuff throughout this season. Yeah,
and I'll just say this as a graphic designer and professional artist, the painting that they chose to have, that Michelle supposedly painted, is quite beautiful. It's a lovely work of art.
Yeah, that was really well done. I want to take this moment to talk about the stuff with Snurs, because occasionally they leave the central narrative and they're dealing with Snurs and his... What does he call them?
The cronies?
The cronies, yeah. He's trying to impress the cronies, and he's like, I'm going to get this chickaroo, and Chickaraff, and then you'll see, and he's trying to get acceptance from them, and they just keep like, all right, kid, It's where nobody's impressed with you, and none of it ever goes well for him.
Yeah, it's like watching the unpopular kid essentially fumble over himself trying to impress the popular clique, even though the clique has absolutely no intention of ever befriending him.
Yeah. And then we finally get to our season finale. Evie is heartbroken upon seeing Sam sell Mr. Jenkins to Snurs. She tries to break him out and ends up getting the attention of both Michelle and Guy, who proceed to argue with one another upon seeing Snurs' pet collection. Evie realizes that the Chikaraff is actually a painted Jeruster, which relieves Guy. It was all a ruse.
Say it, bump. It was a Jerus, but that's why I brought up the Jerusters earlier.
Well done. The three escape just as Snurs realizes he's been had. They find Sam at a cold air balloon port with plans to send Mr. Jenkins back home. He is still upset at Guy for what he said earlier, and Guy makes it up to him by finally... Oh my God, my son and I were like cheering like it was a football game. He finally eats the green eggs and ham, which of course he enjoys.
Well, of course. We did have to eventually get that. Side note, I love that instead of a hot air balloon, it's cold air balloons. That makes no sense physics-wise, but it's so funny.
McWinkle, Gluntz, and Snurs arrive and they chase the group to the port tower. Snurs gets entrapped while McWinkle and Gluntz let them go upon learning of Sam's mission. The balloon gets hijacked by Goat, and Guy uses his invention to save Mr. Jenkins and finally defeat Goat, as well as receiving a kiss from Michelle. The next day, Sam and Guy are having green eggs and ham when Sam recognizes the taste as his mother's. Aha! He learns the eggs come from East Flubria, and he and Guy set off on another adventure. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, this book with only 50 unique words in it has now produced not one but 2 seasons of television.
Well, second season's in development.
Yes, it has been greenlit. They are working on it as we speak. Any day now. So this holds an approval rating of 100% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 8 reviews as of this recording. The website's critical consensus reads, critics love its animation, the way it plays with expectations, with goofy jokes and surprising wham. You may just love Green Eggs and Ham. Arrgh. Metacritic assigned the series a score of 89 out of 100 based on 4 reviews, signifying universal acclaim. And I have to agree. We do a handful of kids cartoons programs on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. I think so far so good. Between Voltron, She-Ra, this, we've picked some really good ones. Like I don't think we've picked a bad one yet that I can recall. I really enjoyed this. I'm glad we kind of on a whim decided to do it, and I'm looking forward to season 2. I'll give you the last word here and we'll get out.
Like I said before, I have seen so many adaptations of Dr. Seuss's work. We've seen movies and TV shows and even Broadway musicals, and they're all trying, but they just seem to lack the soul of what made Dr. Seuss so special. Anyone can make nonsense words and rhymes and paint with curls and curvy styles and bright colors, but it's so hard to capture that spark that Dr. Seuss truly brought to his work. And frankly, this series is, I think, the closest we have ever gotten to something that truly feels like it could have been created directly by Dr. Seuss. This is something that I think he would look back on and be proud of.
Yeah, what works for this, like I said, there's certainly a lot of bright colors and fun characters that for kids to latch on to. My son's experience with it was he enjoyed it. It was hard to get a read on him, actually, because I knew he was enjoying it. He was laughing at certain things, but I think watching 13 episodes of even a 28-minute show might have been a bit much for him, and we might have done better to break it up a little bit more, just because I don't think his attention span was all the way there. But he really liked it. Meanwhile, all the sarcasm and inside jokes and just that higher order of comedy that the show employs made it a great watch for me as an adult.
Not to mention, we get some prime voiceover material. I never in a million years would have picked Michael Douglas to do a voiceover job like this.
I don't know how they got him to do this, but yeah, it's amazing.
Well, apparently he wanted to do something that he thought his kids would enjoy more. we've seen them more like when he started doing Hank Pym in the Ant-Man movies. Michael Douglas has gone on saying that, especially after his cancer scare, he wants to do more things that his whole family can enjoy. I mean, yeah, obviously his kids aren't going to latch onto Gordon Gekko.
Well said. All right, Alexis, we're going to get out of here. The next time I think you'll be on will be March 5th for The Invisible Man.
Hey, it's getting really good early reviews. Taking
Good.
my husband to go see it tomorrow night. I think we're going to have some fun. Just be prepared. It's by Leigh Whannell, which is one of mine and Robert's favorite horror movie writers. So you're going to get us going off on some more tangents.
All right, podcast ad. Here we go. Alexis will be on the source material on March 9th for Harley and Ivy meet Betty and Veronica, because girl requirement.
Yeah, token girl required. I actually said that when I walked in to buy the book, because the guy just kind of looked at me. I'm like, I'm the only girl on the podcast, okay? Sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Speaking of animation, she'll be on for the Damn You Hollywood for Onward, which is Tuesday the 10th. And are you joining us for the DC Universe Harley Quinn, or no?
No. I've actually considered getting DC Universe, the streaming service, but right now we've got Hulu, Amazon Prime, Netflix, and Disney Plus, and we got so much to go through that. Andre and I have essentially decided we'll get DC Universe after we go through more of those other series, but we don't want to get another streaming service when right now we've got plenty to watch.
And finally, you'll be on for the source material for Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Volume 1, then Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Season 3, and then a special afternoon recording as soon as I get done with my Moffitt infusions. Well, I'm going to run home, throw some food in my face, and me and you are going to sit right down and talk about the animated, at that time, the newly released animated movie for Superman Red Son. We've already reviewed the comic. That's in the archives. So
that was before I joined the show.
Yes. People can go find that. But you and I will talk about the animated movie. I know it's one of your favorites. And then, my God, this is going to be Alexis Hejna week all week long. I should have you on the Metal Hammer of Doom to talk about Ozzy Osbourne. Might as well line them all up for you, because you're going to be on again.
On that show, it's just going to give Pat Mullen another excuse to want to kill me.
Damn You Hollywood, A Quiet Place 2. Oh, boy.
More horror!
And then finally, you'll be on the Damn You Hollywood March 31st for Mulan.
Again, I do genuinely want to see it, but again, you need the only woman on the show or on the network to talk about that movie.
So that's all the shows you're on in the month of March, it looks like. This past week, we dropped, she was on the Lock and Key source material with Jesse and Robert Winfrey. Robert Winfrey and I then talked about the show Lock and Key. We just reviewed the new Demons and Wizards 3. And this weekend, I'll be guesting on somebody else's podcast. I'll be on Larry Zonka's 401 on Wrestling podcast, talking AEW Revolution and WWE Super Showdown 2020, featuring Goldberg and The Fiend, and Brock Lesnar versus The Ricochet. Which we will then do individual TV parties for on March 1st. So that's it. That's all my plugs. I'm done talking now. Go ahead and plug your stuff and we'll get out of here.
Quick note, when are we doing the Three Caballeros week?
The Three Caballeros Ride Again is airs May 11th. And then we're doing the TV party for the show that's currently on Disney Plus, which actually aired, I think, in like Brazil or some shit, on May 12th.
Okay. Believe it or not, I have all my graphic novels that I need to go through for source material, and the show's queued up for TV party, but I actually want to watch them in order. Because
Okay.
I learned the hard way that if I start watching something too early, and then it's like over a month before we review it, I have forgotten so much.
Well, remember, in between there, we were also doing a whole week full of Golden Compass / Dark Material stuff. So we've got the Golden Compass graphic novel on the 27th, which I don't know if you're going to be part of or not. But we've got his Dark Materials on the 28th of April. And then, well, that's it for you for that week.
I'll take a look and see if I got it, because I actually have the Dark Materials trilogy. I actually have the book, not the graphic novel, the book. Sitting up here at the top. It's actually right at the top of my bookshelf, like right up there at the very top. Oh.
Yeah, if you can get a quick reread of those, then that'd be great.
Okay. So, but yeah, so I guess next thing I need to read is the Sabrina and watch the. I haven't started watching the third season yet because I want to be so present and have it so fresh in my mind when we talk about it.
Yeah, welcome to my world. I gotta finish watching October Faction and then jam into my head. I got Sabrina and BoJack Horseman. I gotta jam in there.
Yeah,
Yay.
and I'll tell you what, the other thing, I want to watch Green Eggs and Ham again. This was such an enjoyable series. I'm telling you this right now. If you are A, a fan of Dr. Seuss, B, have children, or C, if you're just a child at heart, check this show out. It is really fun. It's not just for little kids.
All right.
Sorry, I had to do one more plug for this show because it is that good, and I do want to watch it again.
Very good.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry. You want me to go ahead and plug Honeysuckle Rose now? I got distracted.
The door is starting to shut, lady.
Honeysuckle Rose Creations, intersection of geek and chic, makers of fine handmade jewelry. Our downtime is almost done. I cannot wait. It is time for convention season. Kind of wish we were going to C2E2 this weekend, but we weren't able to get a table. But we are going to be at Planet Comic-Con on March 20th through the 22nd. So happy to be back, having a table there. If you are in the Midwest, I highly recommend checking it out. We got freaking John Cleese as one of our guests. Oh my God. We got a python, folks. We got a python. And of course, you can always find our stuff in our 2 online stores at Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. We just finished uploading a ton of new stuff, and I'm already completely sold out of Monopoly bracelets on Etsy. I cannot make those things fast enough.
Outstanding.
I'm starting to think I am single-handedly keeping Hasbro in business.
All right, folks, thank you for joining us on this TV party tonight. For Alexis Hejna of Honeysuckle Rose Creations, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.